I don't know if this is working or not. Take a look at it here in a second. Let me adjust myself. So I'm going to address my first subscriber request today, and we're going to talk a little bit about the flight control system and how you may or may not want to set up your particular set of peripherals so that you get the best, integration of your input into all the degrees of freedom.
So Derikos Zrux asks, "Hi Thurston, can you make a video to answer my questions? What bothers me here is how I differentiate between a relative all-stop and going into orient-only mode while maintaining my speed." I've edited his question just a little bit, so sorry for any confusion there, buddy. "Can a button on one of my sticks put me in orienting mode, and then I could keep relative all-stop on the left toe of his rudder?" I think is what he means here. Again, I've not even played yet, so I'm going off what I know from forums, YouTube, and TV.
Oh my, that is much better now that I got some sunglasses on. The sun was killing me. I'm trying to light from the back, and it's not really working. So here's the deal. I'll be brief. I've seen a lot of discussion and confusion over how to pronounce everybody's favorite acronym that is circulating on the forums right now. It's HOTAS. It's HOTAS. It's HOTAS. Like POTUS. HOTAS. It's President of the United States. It's hands-on throttle and stick. It's not POTUS. It's POTUS. It's HOTAS. That's how you say it. HOTAS. FLIR. TADS. That's how you say it. Thanks.
All right, let's actually get in here and take a look at the Zrux's question. Now he had also wrote a little letter and detailed his layout for a control setup. And I kind of tried my best, and I'll give you guys and him a second to look at this and analyze it and make sure this is what he had in mind. He also wanted to use rudder pedals, and he wanted to have his throttle controlling done with his rudder pedals, but still keep the Newtonian brake on the left toe brake, and then he had left the right pedal brake unassigned for now. But he had also noted that he wanted to use the right hat switch to aim and look, and I guess depending on whether that's a digital input or an analog input, being kind of a keynote there, that would make a big difference to me. I personally don't think that would work out so well, but that's where he wanted it. And the pitch yaw he wanted on the right stick, whereas on the left stick he wanted his horizontal and vertical, like thruster strafe controls, to be linked in and slaved to that. And then he had his left had his roll. That still leaves you, at a minimum, another axis or two directions that aren't key to anything. So he would actually have, full hands-on control of that. He didn't. He also wanted to know, he has Newtonian brake, but he doesn't have his decouple button. So yeah, to answer your question, you can pin that to anything that you want, or at least you will be able to when the final version of the game comes out. Okay, now, this time I've made a few changes, and this is not downing what Zrux wanted to do at all, because I think that looked really interesting to me. In fact, keeping with his theme of having acceleration, deceleration, throttle control being done with the rudder pedals, I have your roll being controlled with the shifting of the rudder, the actual pushing of the rudder itself, whereas your accelerate and decelerate would be on your brake pedals. Okay? Next, you'll notice that your right stick remains the same with pitch and yaw, but I've put your manual strafe controls up onto the thumbstick. Assuming you only have one hat switch on your right joystick, that's where you're going to want your directional controls for the lateral and vertical strafing. The reason for that is because you want to have all your flight controls on one hand, if possible. To me, that just, it allows your mind to focus on one hand doing whatever it's doing, the other hand flying the ship completely. Plus, if you have a hand and a thumb, that's 4 axes right there. I don't think this one has twist, and I don't like twist or use it when I have it. It's not accurate. I don't like it. I don't recommend it. Also, that thumbstick, that hat switch, is probably going to be digital. If it's an 8-way or a 4-way. It's not going to have the same analog control. So for looking, you see that has the built-in track IR or if you're wearing a Rift, an Oculus Rift, that would be my recommendation. If you're going to use a 2-stick setup, then you should probably go with Track IR or some other sort of you know, responsive type thing like that as for targeting. Maybe it feels a little more like TADS. Or, as you'll see here, I have the redundant pitch yaw on the other stick. So if you wanted to keep a mouse, so that you could just, take one hand off of the stick and you'd still be able to have full, pitch yaw control, and then you could touch up, fine tune your targeting with that. As far as you also see, I have the targeting on the left hat, assuming you only have one hat on each. But even if you had a throttle there, I tend to like to keep my targeting on my throttle. Targeting navigation, just selecting what's in your bore sight or next hostile or whatever, previous, friendly, whatever you're gonna do. I would do that there. You had the roll there. If you only needed 2 targeting options, like target bore sight and then target nearest enemy per se, because then you can target any friendly, just put it in your bore sight. Then you'd still have 2 more directions that you could use for something else, systems control. That's what I like to keep on the left side or the throttle side, things like that. So I really hope that this gives you some insight into how another pilot might look at something. But I really like where you were going as far as not using an actual throttle. All right, and thanks again to Derikos Rux from Valinor Aerospace for giving me a topic to discuss. I hope that answered your question. Write me back, let me know how that works out for you. Alright, first let's take a look at some HOTAS style flight sticks, and we'll kind of define what makes HOTAS in a flight control system. I've never used one, but it looks like it would be decent. This is the Thrustmaster Warthog. We've all seen that. That's what was given away at CitizenCon. That's another decent stick. Then we have the Cytec X52 Pro. This is a single throttle, but it does have dials and like trim adjusters, and I think it's got a hat switch on there somewhere. That's not a bad stick. This is my old classic Suncom F15. This was a really great stick that I had. I loved it because it didn't have any twist. I hate that wrist twist for the rudder. It actually looks almost identical to a real F-18 Hornet stick if you look at it. Okay, and this is the Cytec X55 Rhino. This is another HOTAS styled stick and throttle setup. I really like this one because it has 3 hat switches on the flight stick, as you can see, and there's also 2 trim knobs that are located on the throttle itself. I'd like to just make this clear right now. You don't have to have the divided dual throttle styled setup for your flight stick and throttle to be considered HOTAS. It just has to have axis controls like hat switches, castle switches, and sliding like trim knobs or scrolling wheels all over the control surface of your stick and throttle and base. That's what makes it hands-on throttle and stick. Alright, next we're going to look at hands-on gamepad and mouse. That's HOGAM. I'm not being serious. But let's face it, the gamepad is still an indispensable part of any gamer's arsenal. And for first-person styled gameplay, nothing is better. It really isn't. But I just want to note that, yeah, when you're holding a gamepad, if you're trying to pilot a vehicle of any kind, having to have your hands preoccupied holding the device and only being able to use your thumbs, it's not going to work. If you don't like using a hands-on throttle, you can try some of these devices here. These gamepads are great. They have the scroll wheel, and you can use that for your throttle function. I used to own one of the Nostromo N50s.
Waiting on your Arena Commander match to load? Do what I do. Pump out some cam curls.